welcome everyone to the final day of the SLTV Star Series Hearthstone Season 1 LAN Finals. With me still is Aquablood for the third and last day.
Yeah, we've had a lot of matches over the last 2 days. These players have been battling really hard to secure their spot in today, which only 4 players had to go through. Dog and Cypher did fall a little bit short. We had even 3 extra matches yesterday with a tiebreaker.
It was actually really interesting because going into the last day, we knew at some point that there was only one way the day could end in a 3-way tie, and we would have to run 3 tiebreaker matches, and exactly that scenario happened. Now, Stancifka had to perform amazingly well in order to go through, and he did. He ended up beating Kalento in the very last tiebreaker match 3-0, which is a feat of strength, and now he's going to be facing off against Orange today, and Kalento on the other end will be playing against Ty. So the format is actually kind of simple for today.
Yep, just double elimination, best of 5 conquest with the ban. So if these players do lose in their first games, they still have another chance to come back, but it's going to be a little bit harder. Climbing out that losers bracket is generally harder because you have to play more games. As has to fight more opponents. You could go, if you win 2 games, you're in the grand finals. If you lose 1 in between there, you have to fight a lot of other people who want to get to the grand finals as well.
All right, exactly. So one of the things to keep in mind, I think if you lose the first match that you're going up against, you have to then win the following 2. So you can't afford taking another loss after that point. And if you win the first one, lose the second one, you have to then win the third match. So overall, you have to get 2 wins absolutely to get to the grand finals, which means that if someone wins their first 2 matches, they'll have it a little bit easier as far as the pressure is concerned. They can wait and see whoever goes through. As far as prize money goes, it's actually pretty well distributed. You've got 6,000 for first place, 3.5 for second place, and 2.5 for third place. The other will be splitting 750 for the fourth and fifth and sixth place.
So $6,000 for number 1. That's a lot of money as well as this giant trophy that's sat on the stage behind us. You can see it in the camera there. So not only a giant trophy, $6,000 as well to boot, and first place title on your record. So a lot to play for here. I'm sure every player wants first place. They won't settle for anything else.
If you didn't catch all the matches from yesterday, there's a little bit of a video recap as usual, so you can enjoy that and maybe catch up on what's been done.
The second day of StarLadder StarSeries Hearthstone was really long. It started with the battle of Orange and Dog. Swedish player lost 2 games from the start, but then he took 3 confident victories in a row and became the best in the series. 2 friends met each other in the next match, Stancifka and Thijs. The score was 3-1 for the current European champion. The match was really interesting with all those mirror matchups, Warlock vs Warlock and Warrior vs Warrior. After, Cypher and Dog pleased our viewers with 2 secret paladins. Dog was stronger than his opponent at this game and at the whole series. The meeting of Kalento and Orange seemed really unpredictable at the one moment. Orange won the first game, but Kalento beat him in the second game extremely fast. In the end, Swedish player focused and finished his opponent in 3-1 score. Thijs ended his match with the same score. Dog was able to take only 1 game from him. Notable that Thijs didn't change his paladin deck even after the loss and took his revenge. Stancifka and Orange both had an opportunity to play their warriors. It's so hard to believe that we're gonna miss Patrons soon. Especially Orange, as long as he took 3-1 victory with it. Every viewer and every player waited for the match Kalento vs Cypher, because everything depended on its result. It could be the last match of the day, but as long as Kalento won it with 3-2 score, our Saturday night plans changed. As a result of group stage, Dog, Stancifka and Kalento had the same amount of points, but we had only 2 plays in playoff for them, so we needed tiebreakers to decide who's gonna earn his lucky ticket. It's so hard to say goodbye, but Dog can't continue the battle anymore. After this crazy and long day, we can only predict what we will see today, so stay tuned.
So we got Dog and Cypher knocked out. They are still going home, as I said, with some, $750 each. Everybody who came here is going home with something, but they really wanted to win above anything else.
I mean, as well as the $750, they got the experience of coming to Ukraine, been treated really well here, getting to hang out with some players, hang out with us as well. So all in all, a bit of a vacation.
Yeah.
Got to play some Hearthstone. It's not too bad.
It's all right. I mean, what's interesting too is the format has been kind of interesting. If you want to know what a post-Patron metagame looks like, with the ban system, we've seen. I think Dog's lineup actually represented what the metagame would look like the most after Patron is gone. In its current iteration, at least, we might see something else crop up from the card. But the lineup from Dog just completely went out of the way of anything Patron related.
Well, he took Patron from his lineup and just said, you know what, if Patron's going to be banned, I won't bring Patron, so you have to ban one of my decks. I mean, it's easy to just say, no, Patron, I'll ban that, move on. But if you don't bring Patron, then your opponent has to think, actually, what do I want to ban here? He hasn't brought it. But Stancifka, on the other hand, had a different ID for, you know what, Patron, bring it on. I'll take you on. And he did. He did really well in the first day fighting those Patron Warriors. His Control Warrior was exceptional during the whole event.
Right. I think the Handlock looked like it was missing a second heal bot, right? He had to make cuts for some of the adaptations that he made in order to counter what he thought was going to be there. His deck, some people say, is not, they're not adapted to the metagame that we've seen represented in the event. But, he did make it to the top 4. He beat Kalento 3-0 there in the tiebreaker, matches, so I can't imagine he's unhappy about his picks.
I mean, 3-0 against Kalento.
Yeah.
We were talking about before that match started, it was going to be so hard for Stancifka to get the win there, but he just cruised through it like it was nothing. And we had some amazing events. Low Walker Cho showing up 3 times during this event.
Right.
Causing trouble.
We can't actually have seen that many Shredder spot, but Low Walker Cho was there 3 times. He actually mattered a lot for 2 of them. The last one I think was interesting because Kalento got complacent with the existence of Cho. He didn't think it was going to be that impactful, and it ended up being the extra minion that Stancifka needed. And so we're going to be heading on over to the first match between Orange and Stancifka. So we'll get to see the lineup from Stancifka again. They have not been allowed to change their decks in between, and Orange's lineup, it was made last minute, but it's functional.
Yeah, Orange's lineup has really worked well for him, and look where he is now. He's in top 4, and he got a last-minute invite as well, so he didn't even prepare for this event. So I think Orange is really happy. But these players, do they have some more stuff to tell us?
I think a little bit, yeah. Or not.
There's a lot of pressure on you. I actually can. I can actually think of when I was not a pro player and when I was up and coming. It was so great because when I did poorly, nobody cared, and when I did good, people were happy for me. But now when I'm a pro player, when I do good, people are really happy for me just as they were before. When I do badly, I also have fans and people that. Not necessarily get upset, but get sad and disappointed, and you have a lot of expectations on you as a pro player, and that can be a little bit too much sometimes. I'm actually quite new to casting events. I was really excited to get to do that again here, after only having a few events where I've actually been able to cast. That is something that I am trying to do as my secondary thing. My main thing is trying to be the best tournament player I can be and perform in tournaments. But if that's not possible, I really want to see how good of a caster I can be, because I think it is very interesting to be able to reflect my thoughts on the game to other people.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, there's something to be said about having a pro player on the casting bench. They have technically more insight than maybe simple casters like myself, maybe and you. I'm in the same boat necessarily, but they do have a lot more game knowledge on very specific small points.
You can really tap into a pro player's kind of analytical brain and kind of pick their brain for situations which you might not see yourself. So you might address an issue, say, oh, you could do this. And the pro player will be like, actually, if you do this, it's a little bit better. And you're like, and you learn it as a caster as well. So the one thing about casting with pro players is it's a learning experience for the casters who are not as analytically sound.
Yeah, I mean, I like analysis. That's what I love most about the game, I think. Watching Hearthstone definitely gives me that. But watching some of the top players, sometimes you'd like to get the explanation behind the play. And when you get it, it gives you, more fuel, I guess, for future castings. So as far as his opponent, Stancifka, the player who came back against all odds, I want to say, yesterday with a 3-0 against Kalento in the tiebreaker, he's got some more stuff to tell us as well.
When I started playing Hearthstone, I took everything very seriously. When I first time opened, the client, I did it with thinking I want to be the best player in the world at some point. So I didn't follow the Hearthstone scene almost at all before I started playing, because I just know I didn't play like World of Warcraft or anything like this before. I was playing MTG, and it's a very similar game to Hearthstone, and then I told myself the Hearthstone is very good, many people are watching it, and it's a great game over, I should learn it, but I have no clue who's good in the game and like if there are any tournaments or how it works. So I've just learned the game, and I start following the scene after, because the way you improve in the game is that you watch the best players in the world and how they play and what they are doing. So I started follow the scene right after I learned the game, so that's where I started. For me, it was very, very easy to start playing Hearthstone, because my experience for MTG was really big. Like, I was one of the best players in the world in MTG when I started to play Hearthstone. And it's very similar, that you need to think which card is gonna work well together, how to build your deck, how to balance, like see the strong sides of the cards and see also their potential weakness, like if they are too situational or if they have good enough raw power. And these things comes with an experience, and if you are completely new in the world of card games, you need some time, you need to be patient, and you cannot expect that you're gonna win the first week you start playing. And basically the patience is the key, and you also need to watch the best players and look what they are doing and try to do it yourself. And then you should start thinking critical, what I'm doing wrong, why am I not winning enough. And you can always blame RNG, obviously, but most of the time when you lose the game is because you screw something up, and you need to really focus on your mistakes and try to put them away and not to just complain about RNG. That's the main advice how to improve. And you should also find someone who you trust or who do think he's better player than you, and practice with him a lot and asking him, would you do this in this situation or would you do the other stuff? And then you can discuss, and if you start understanding his points, then you're gonna improve your game as well. Because if you just copy something and not knowing why he did it and without understanding the game, it's gonna work in the short term, but in the long term, you need to understand why should I choose this card for the deck, why should I mulligan this card or keep it. And basically you need to know why are you doing certain things, and the question why is very, very important in the Hearthstone.
As a Stancifka here giving us the Apple picture, but beyond that, he's also telling us that we should learn why we're doing things as opposed to just learning what to do, because very often you can translate the general knowledge into maybe new decks that you make yourself, because you've accumulated maybe more of your own experience as opposed to copy pasting what a pro does.
I mean, copy-pasting only takes you so far,
Yeah.
like he said. You need to be able to make your own mind about things, make your own judgment calls. Stancifka thought that bringing lots of BGHs in this event would benefit him. He was expecting Handlock, so it actually backfired a little bit. Although the BGHs in his warrior do have synergy with the Cruel Task, in the Handlock is a bit different, so maybe he made a missed call there, maybe not, maybe he feels that's
Secret
the right
Paladin,
way.
right? It works against the Challenger. It can turn the 9/8 into an easy target when the Challenger becomes a 7/7 after the competitive spirit triggers. If you're not able to deal with it, it's still something that you can use. So I think overall he knew what he was doing, and I hope for him that it works out.
Another thing to consider with Stancifka as well, he said he used to be one of the best Magic players in the world, so it's going to be obvious for him that he'll want to be one of the best Hearthstone players in the world. If you can achieve that in a TCG already, when you move on to your new one, you're going to have the same ambition. He's going to want to become the best, and this is an event that can take him a step forward towards that goal.
Stancifka here bans again the Hunter from his opponent, very consistent with his game plan, hasn't changed one thing, and Orange has a Druid, Warrior, and Mage. It's a Tempo Mage, a Patron Warrior, as well as a Druid. That's, I feel like, a more standard mid-range, and Stancifka has been able to handle lineups like these, but Orange is 4-1 in the initial stage, right? The round-robin stage, Orange was tied with Tice for the absolute best score.
And Orange actually beat Stancifka
Yep.
as well, so he already has a victory against him, so Stancifka can learn from that experience. He was probably watching the VODs last night once he found out who's matched up, see what little things he can do to improve his game plan, maybe change some of his plays, his ideas, going against certain decks. So I'm sure both of these players have studied hard.
Yeah, I mean, Stancifka, again, reiteration, he is running Handlock and Control Warrior. He's the only player who has brought these two decks. Most other players brought, if they brought Warlock, the Zoo archetype. And as far as Warrior goes, mostly Patron. So Stancifka being a bit original and creative with the deck lineups, and he likes the control style a bit more. He was talking to me about that yesterday. We were discussing, and he said, I like to have the long-term game plan in mind, as opposed to just a short-term one. And as a result, I think he's a lot more comfortable with the control.
That definitely plays to his strength as a player. Stancifka, a very patient person. He takes his time. Sometimes he's a bit greedy, like you said, but when it pays off hard, and it usually secures him the win. So it looks like the Control Warrior, which we were just mentioning, is going to be starting first. Harrison Jones, not really going to be helpful against his Tempo Mage. How do you feel this matchup is? Tempo Mage can be, he can swing either way, I think.
I feel like if you get the weapons early as Stancifka, you're going to be in a better spot. Really, the biggest issue is dealing with Mirror Entity. You really only have Armor Smiths and Cruel Taskmasters that are targets you want to give to your opponent unless you're able to deal with whatever you feed him immediately. Very often, that's not the case. In the case of, say, you playing a big minion, you can always execute it, but if you're executing the minion you give him, you're feeding him a lot of value for very little effort. So we'll see if Stancifka can pick up weapons. I think they are the most important. There are no more Snow Chuggers, right? This is Tempo Mage, not a Mech Mage.
No War Elements either, and they are really nasty against the Warrior. Stancifka played against Kalento's Tempo Mage yesterday, and the way the game went was he had a lot of weapons. Even though Kalento had a lot of freeze, he managed to just deal with the minions, and then Kalento ran out of steam.
Exactly.
And he just had so much armor, so Shield Maidens were coming down. It was hard for him to deal with it, despite finding his way to Stancifka's hand at the start as well. So you'll have a weapon in the next 2 turns to start dealing with stuff like Mana Worm, Azure Drakes, whatever comes up.
So Stancifka here has got the option of playing the Armor Smiths, of course, but that is vulnerable to Flame Cannon. The alternative is to just armor up, and then when the Mana Worm attacks next turn, if a minion is played from Orange, let's say, and Mana Worm stays at 1 attack, then you can always armor up and shield slam it down, follow it up with a Death's Bite, keep the Armor Smiths for the Mirror Entity. Overall, I think Stancifka will be fine with the early game.
So Orange will be considering this. He just armors up, plays nothing, actually just goes for the Scientist. Not going to use the coin just yet, and this is going to play right into Stancifka's hands. He can armor up, and he can shield slam that worm if he chooses.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the best play, but I like it a lot. In this case, too, you know, you follow it up with a Death's Bite, and then when the Mad Scientist dies, you're able to feed your opponent nothing more than an Armor Smith. And you can set up a good execute with the Death's Bite AoE. So over the next few turns, I think this Death's Bite will come in very handy. And we see, you know, the Frostbolt in Orange's hand. There's a good chance that he decides to freeze his opponent before the Death's Bite can do too much damage. But Stancifka here must be feeling at least somewhat comfortable.
I mean, Tempo Mages can get kind of spells, too many spells in the hand sometimes to get minion starved. And if Stancifka can make a read on that, he can take advantage of it. You know, Shield Slam in here. It's only a 1-3, and you think, going to Shield Slam on this guy, really? But you need to just kill everything as it comes out. You can't be conservative with your removal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 1-3 now. Right?
Yeah,
it's
for
a 1-3
sure.
now, and it's a 6-3 later. So if you just let it snowball, Mana Worm is the type of card. You know, it's not Undertaker level broken because it doesn't go up in health as well as in attack. But when you can't deal with it, and it's happened before, it's kind of like a Frothing Berserker for Tempo Mage.
Yeah, it can be very deadly. All the spells, lots of synergy with the Tempo Mage deck. And Stancifka, you know, he's got Mad Scientist to deal with here. Orange, on the other hand, he's just kind of spell logged. He's got a Mirror Entity he could play, but then the Mad Scientist loses its value if it gets taken out before Mirror Entity is popped. You could throw a Frostbolt up face, predicting the Death's Bite, but you know, it's really tough.
Yeah, I feel like right now Orange is in a position where nothing really feels good. Mirror Entity, as you said, is something that you don't want to play unless, of course, you have 2 secrets in your deck, right? If Mad Scientist can bring out something like a duplicate, a counterspell, then maybe Mirror Entity is justifiable, but otherwise it's not something you're happy to do. The only reason you Frostbolt here is because you're expecting the Death Bite and you want to deny the AoE from going off.
If he just pinged and passed, it would have been too passive for a deck that's so aggressive, so he had to play something. He may lose the value from the Mad Scientist if there is no other secrets, but, you know, you can't just not do anything as a Tempo Mage.
Yeah, so we're going to see if there's another secret in Orange's deck. Not that I know, but maybe there is. And there is not. So Orange has, quote-unquote, wasted the Mad Scientist, although I think it's a bit of an overstatement to put it that way.
So now the Deathbite setup, coining Azure Drake doesn't look as good as it might have before the Deathbite's shown up. So Sorcerer's Apprentice might come down here just to bait out the last charge of that Deathbite, and then he can keep the coin ready for that Flame Waker, and then he can play the Azure Drake safely.
Yeah, if you can bait out that last charge, you're going to be golden. But Stancifka picks up the second minion that he needs for Mirror Entity if ever the need shows up. I mean, this is a really good spot for him, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he can give less value to that Mirror Entity, not hitting something like a Shield Maiden or a Harrison Jones.
Would you play Cruel Taskmaster on the Sorcerers and attack your own Cruel Taskmaster with a Death Bite?
That seems like a good play to me. You clear up both the minions there. Clear board, you lose the Death Bite, it does its work, and then you've got 3 more mana to play with, so you could develop an Armor Smith, or you could armor up, shield block even if you want to cycle. There's a lot of options here for Stancifka.
Yeah, this is if he plays the Armor Smith here, he's giving his opponent a tiny bit of armor, but he is able to clear anyway, right? He goes Armor Smith, attacks the Armor Smith, and plays a Cruel Taskmaster, and it will keep his Cruel Taskmaster at 2 health as opposed to 1 if he opts for that line of play. I really like this a bit more than the Cruel Taskmaster on its own.
Oh yeah, for sure, because he develops the Cruel Taskmaster as a minion then, so he keeps the 2-2 as well, and that gives him some stuff to trade with now. He's just lost his weapon because he had to use it to clear these minions up, but now he's developed a board which he can start using to clear out any other threats that come from Orange.
Oh, Orange with a second Mirror Entity. Not exactly something you're too happy to see here, I imagine. You really want to get them all out of the Mad Scientist, and he hasn't been able to find a single one, but it's something you can use on a turn that you want to get. You know, for instance, you know now that the 2 smaller minions in the deck are out. You've seen 2 of them, and there's a good chance the Mirror Entity will hit something a tiny bit bigger. You know, next turn you can go Shredder, Coin, Mirror Entity, get yourself a good tempo turn back. But Stancifka has 2 brawls, and Orange is fully aware of that.
2 brawls is super deadly, especially if you can kind of hit them back to back. You know, developing a board after the first brawl, you usually feel pretty safe because 1 brawl is kind of the standard, but when you've got 2 brawls, you have to be cautious yet again because you don't know when that second brawl is going to show up, so overextending is a big deal for Orange.
So Stancifka here, he's got the option of executing, of course. I really like the execute with Harrison Jones. It's like, it's a play you can make and get yourself a guaranteed bit of tempo. But if you don't count on Harrison Jones to live, and it's going to be contested way too often, then maybe you want to keep the execute for Archmage Antonidas, keep it for Dr. Boom. Good consideration there by Stancifka.
This is his last piece of hard removal for now, until he digs into his deck a little deeper. So, like I said, keeping it for those bigger threats might be the best idea. He's sitting at 33 health. You know, this Mage hasn't done any pressure to his life total, and that Shield Maiden is going to make him a lot more healthier as well. So, he's got a better board now. He can just kind of fight with his minions rather than using his spells for a little while at least.
Yeah, and Stancifka here, the Shield Maiden did it had a, I guess, double-pronged effect, where it gave you health, which is good, and it also forced a fireball away from your face in this case, and that's probably the reasoning why he attacked last turn, because he knew that Orange was forced to play defensively, and as a result, the execute was likely to be enabled by just the Drake attacking. So by attacking last turn with the Armor Smith, he gave himself that extra bit of damage. It's a 1 damage, really, but it does help in this case. It's only a problem if you need the extra mana later on.
Fiery War Axe, what a great pickup for Stancifka here. So he has a way to deal with the Drake. He has a way to deal with this Mistress of Pain if he sees it as a threat in the future. And he could maybe even develop an Acolyte of Pain. There's only a 1/4 on the field, so it could get some value out of it as well. And armor up again and keep his health, you know, nice and topped up, not in danger of being taken out by Orange anytime soon.
Yeah, the Acolyte of Pain gives you card draw, and maybe you want to dig for those big threats and those brawls, you know, give yourself a little bit more removal, as you said. I mean, he has used one Shield Slam already, so he wants to make sure he can go through. The Acolyte of Pain also has the advantage of forcing the Mage to have a Flame Cannon or a Frostbolt, because if he's got Flame Waker plays, then those don't really seem too appealing.
If you can find a Frostbolt on this Acolyte as well, that's a Fireball to the Shield Maiden and a Frostbolt to the Acolyte. That's 2 pieces of burst from the Mage's arsenal taken away, used for removal just to be able to fight for the board. So I think Stancifka will be fine with that if he loses a Frost. If a Frostbolt flies at the Acolyte, it's a Frostbolt he's not taken to the face later on.
Yeah, I mean, it will let him use his weapon, and that is something that he really wants to do. As far as Orange goes, though, he's got a good hand to continue going forward. If Stancifka has, you know, doesn't find a brawl, doesn't find any more removal, there's a chance that Orange just snowballs out of control, and the Stancifka has to be playing from behind for the entire game.
I mean, he had the Frostbolt there just because the Mistress of Pain would give Stancifka too many cards. Armor Smith finds his way to the hand from the card draw from the Acolyte. Mirror Entity is set up, and we were talking about there's only a selection of minions in the Control Warrior deck you really want to give to the Mage.
Right.
And Armor Smith can be one of them.
I mean, there's a consideration, I'm sure, for the Big Game Hunter, where you play it as a tempo play.
I mean, he has 2.
And you can, yeah, exactly, and you can use the BGH here and then kill it with your axe, play the Harrison Jones to contest the Mistress of Pain. But is that strong enough? Is it not better to go for Armor Smith, Harrison Jones, and finish off the Mistress of Pain? Right, that is another consideration. Do you not even want to play Harrison Jones again? Is that another consideration?
I quite like Harrison here.
Yeah, I feel like it's the only time, right?
I mean, Harrison contests the Armor Smith. Armor Smith is not going to be a threat from his side. And he even keeps the weapons. Even the Mistress of Pain doesn't feel like much of a threat.
All right, so Stancifka knows that this Armor Smith is not going to get killed by minions, and so he's again forcing Orange to have Flame Cannon.
And he digs deep into his deck, finds another unstable portal. He got the Mistress of Pain last time, which is not a great card for Tempo Mage in general. You want to find something with a bigger body to put more pressure on. Maybe this time, if he decides to use it, he can find something a bit more threatening. Maybe a Trogzor. You know, those guys have popped up for us already.
We've seen that, and it wasn't nearly as big a threat as we initially assumed. Stancifka was telling me just how slow he thought it was and how little impact it had on the game overall. I'm just wondering, though, here from Orange's perspective, you know, Mistress of Pain, Armor Smith, those can keep you somewhat safe, but the health doesn't matter, so you would much rather have bigger minions. And in this case, those 1/4s really don't do too much.
Oh, a Salty Dog, that is a big minion, but with low health. Does die to a Death Bite, very easily taken out, but you may be able to put pressure on it later if you can exhaust some of Stancifka's resources. And there's the first brawl.
Yeah, the first brawl is insurance for Stancifka against anything that Orange tries to pull off. There is almost nothing from Orange that Stancifka is worried about right now. As long as he's got the brawl, as long as he's got the execute to follow it up with, it's going to be very difficult for Orange to do anything. And, you know, the Salty Dog, assuming Stancifka wants to just kill it with BGH, that's also an option. Very few things that Stancifka can't do here.
I mean, BGH's targets are generally going to be in Tempo Mage, Rag, Dr. Boom, and Salty Dog if you draw it. So he can use it for tempo there if he needs to. And he gets the removal as well, which is nice. Again, he's setting up this Acolyte of Pain, saying to Orange, do you have a Frostbolt or I'm going to draw some cards?
This is so frustrating, though, if you're in Orange's shoes right now, because you did use a Frostbolt earlier. Where's the second one? No Flame Cannon's been found. He does get the Arcane Blast, though, but
no spell power.
He does not have spell damage up.
Azure Drake just got taken out, so not an opportunity to use that just to clear the Acolyte instantly. So this Acolyte might actually get a little bit of value coming up.
Yeah, 2 cards, at least 2 cards is the assumption here, probably only 2. Orange here is thinking about, you know, he's worried about overextending. He knows for a fact that Stancifka has 2 brawls. It's been one of the biggest surprises of the event so far, right? We didn't expect to see a double brawl deck, but Stancifka has made use of it amazingly.
Chromash finding his way to Stancifka's hand here. And Sylvanas, here are the heavy hitters of the Control Warrior. Turn up to Stancifka's hand. He's got a lot of health. Been fighting for board, but now it's time for Stancifka to say, you know what? Time to deal with some of my stuff.
Yeah, and it's really scary though if you're in Orange's shoes, because right now you don't even have card advantage anymore. These acolytes have been forcing you to respond to them, and in this case, you didn't even have an answer. So Stancifka here with the Brawl, with the Sylvanas, perfect combination to use at any given point. He can use Grom even for tempo here, force Orange to use a Fireball, trade away all his minions. So in that way, Grommash kind of acts as another board clear or a safeguard. I think Stancifka is in an amazing spot.
Tempo Grom in this matchup is fantastic, simply because Grom is not your only threat. He's just one of many, and when you put a 10-6, 10-7 down after he's traded, you force a response from the Mage like a Fireball. He's already used one as well, so in the future I can see this Grom maybe clearing a minion and maybe putting some pressure on Orange.
Yeah, I really like that. So Orange here is in, he's picked up the Frostbolt. That's going to give him a little bit more wiggle room as far as the plays he can make. But again, Sylvanas here is a big problem. Like, it's not going to steal anything meaningful necessarily, but it will force you to slow down, and with a warrior on 41 health, slowing down is something you just can't afford.
And Sylvanas, even though she will be taken out, may not, like you said, grab anything useful, but he's on 15 armor with 27 health. Can you slow it? Can you be slowed down anymore as a Tempo Mage? I mean, the Tempo Mage's win conditions are just falling apart right now. Fireballs are being thrown at minions, Frostbolts are being thrown at minions. It'd be so hard for Orange to fight back. It actually grabs the Mistress. A Knife Juggler would have been better, but I don't think it matters really what Stancifka got there. He, like he said, he slowed down the pace of the Tempo Mage even more.
Yeah, so Orange here has the option of course, going for the Arcane Missiles. Why not? He's thinking to himself, but if I play more minions, how do I win if there's a brawl? There's absolutely no way. He's got to take a chance, though, at some point. All right. Oh, my God.
Wow.
Stancifka with the nail in the coffin. More armor gain, ladies and gentlemen.
This card is incredible, especially in these matchups where you get to stall out as long as Stancifka has, because once you drop this guy, it's almost game over, because you'll never be able to punch through not only the armor, but through the Brawl. The Brawl will take a big toll on you as well as every other threat that's in the Control Warrior deck. So this could be kind of lights out for Orange going forward, especially if he develops Justica in the next few turns. He's already on 20 armor.
Yeah, I don't even know if Stancifka has a way to lose here. I mean, we're looking at... I mean, he can armor up Justicar Trueheart and re-armor up just because, right? There's no rush. The earlier you get Justicar out, the better off you are in the long run. And with the execute, with the Brawl, I don't think anything can really stop him at this stage. We're gonna have to see what Orange can muster, but I don't really know of much that he can do.
He's sitting on the weapon as well, which he's been keeping hold of, waiting for those cards that really matter. Knife Juggler's a good one, so he's not even going to need the Brawl just yet. Yeah. And even if he does get an opportunity to Brawl, he can follow it with a Sludge Belcher straight after, so he creates another wall, but he decides just to go for the Sludge Belcher here. That's interesting, not really mana efficient.
I think the reasoning here is obviously that Justicar Trueheart does not live through the 3-2, so you're expending a 6-3 minion. And if you want to maximize the value, you can't afford to do that. Oh my goodness, muster for battle for Stancifka.
Speaking of musters, yeah, he's going to have another weapon, which will trade into the minions, and he's also going to develop all these 1/1s, which can trade too, so he's just gaining more board advantage from that spell. What do you think of Seal? Is it Seal of Light?
It's a great card on paper. In practice, though, I don't think it's really playable. I mean, it'll kill 3-2s, it's great, but now that we have the Argent Lance and Paladin, it's been made even more obsolete. There may come a day where it's good, but for the time being, it's not quite there yet. It'll help you trade here, and if you want to go for Seal of Light, maybe use the 3-2 with it to kill the Belcher. Stancifka with the muster for battle and Brawl together, that's giving him a lot of potential to just keep what he's got.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
For all it's worth.
I don't know how he's gonna
lose this.
Lose this for sure.
Yeah. Let's go through the motions here while Stancifka stacks up even more armor. He's sitting on a very, very comfortable 52 health. Yeah, good luck pushing him out of that Orange.
Dr. Boom looks like it might be something that will help, but with a BGH sitting in his hand, it's not going to be able to do a lot.
Yeah, and the muster for battle too. You will muster for battle, kill a Boombot, it'll trigger, kill a 1-1, and then you can go for the big game hunter. Stancifka has what should be the perfect answer. Orange here with the Salty Dog is going to try to bait the big game hunter, and I like that play.
Yeah, the bait on the big game hunter might protect his Dr. Boom, but a Frostbolt finds its way to Justica, so another damage dealing resource is gone, especially the freeze as well. It's just, is there enough damage in Orange's deck
anymore? Yeah, I have to wonder. Stancifka here has the option, of course, to go for Big Game Hunter and then follow it up with a Slam, Cruel Taskmaster to finish off the 3-3. But he really wants to optimize his card efficiency. We've seen that already. He wasn't willing to throw Justicar early. It wasn't necessary. The Belcher here gave him a little bit more, you know, long-term plan. He can just wait and wait until he finds even more answers. I think Stancifka wants to value his cards, and the best value play you can make here might even be just waiting. I wouldn't even fault him for that. It's just that if Orange reads into this, he's just going to attack and pass.
Big Game Hunter could be fine though. It is a bait, and Orange will get rewarded for it, but he does have another Big Game Hunter, but maybe the Slam will find it.
Muster for Battle is coming out. I hope so. Oh, there we go.
So 2 executes now. So even though the Big Game Hunter came down, Execute will be able to clear up the Dr. Boom very nicely if he needs to. Another thing to consider for Orange, I think his game plan going forward here, if I was wanting to win, was getting a very nice Antonidas turn. Because it might be the only way you'll be able to accumulate enough damage. But the problem is, I don't think Stan will ever lose board at any point. He'll always gain it back.
Yeah, and those 1/1s as well synergize amazingly with the executes that he's got, so that he can just sacrifice them away. If they don't die to Flame Wakers, they're basically enablers and cheap enablers as well for your executes.
I mean, Cruel Taskmaster is sitting in his hand, so he does have an activator in case these little 1/1s do get cleared up. But, oh, Seal of Light going to come down, going to deal with that Big Game Hunter. He has to, because if he just leaves it around, he might be able to just use the Big Game Hunter along with the weapon and the 3 dudes to clear
the board, yeah.
Exactly, and doesn't even need an execute then.
Alright, so Stancifka here will be getting himself a very cheap removal of Dr. Boom. Is he going to brawl? Are we looking at the brawl? It looks like one. Goodness, here we go.
Brawl number 1.
So the Muster for Battle Brawl combo may not be as good as Sylvanas, but it's pretty close.
The chances of you getting that 1/1 are very high. He doesn't actually get any of his dudes, but the Light's Justice cleans up the bomb fine, can armor up.
Good enough.
And then he sits there with tons of armor still.
Back to 52. What a life.
What an easy lifestyle for this warrior. Just keep gaining loads of armor, sitting there, dealing with anything that shows up. See if Spell Sling can make any influence in a rage.
And the counter Muster for Battle for Orange. Oh man, now you're talking about value plays.
So he doesn't develop it just yet. Second Brawl to the hand.
Good thing he didn't develop it. Now, what's interesting is Orange can maybe count on Archmage Antonidas into Muster for Battle and to coin Arcane Missiles to get him through 1 turn at the very least. It's going to give him, 3 extra fireballs. Not something that's going to guarantee a win, but it is something. I don't think we've seen anything from Orange that is, so out of the ordinary that it could just shift the game outright. But there's a chance.
I mean, all the RNG cards like Spellslinger could have swung things in his favor, but they haven't given him enough, really.
Yeah.
And they're giving Stancifka stuff as well. The Muster of Battle made a nice brawl situation for him there, so he benefited from that Spellslinger. And this time, Inner Rage could be an activator for Execute, activator for Grom as well. That's another thing. So maybe the Inner Rage will help Stancifka more than the Muster, because Stancifka has all the removal in the world.
I mean, this is kind of the power of Control Warrior as well. I mean, Stancifka wins here. He's going to be getting one of the matchups out of the way. His Druid is a little weak to the Tempo Mage, so there's definitely, it's not one for him. Even if he takes the game easily here, he's going to have to go through difficult matchups afterwards. The Druid alone is going to struggle maybe a little bit.
But he could run into the Druid Mirror, so it comes down to the power of Innovate and Wild Growth. So there's still I think it's fine at the moment. It depends how things kind of line up. Flame Waker finds his way to his hand there a bit late. Not really going to have much impact on the board. It looks like Mustard's going to come down so we can trade with this Power to Shredder. Or I like the Spellslinger more because it plays around the second brawl.
Yeah, I mean, the Shredder is valuable in that it prevents you from losing all your board to removal. It's got 2 bodies. You might be able to get 12, maybe 16 damage out of it if the warrior is being very greedy about taking it out. It's making its way through the armor, but it's really just chipping at it. The Justicar True Heart, enabling Stancifka to negate the Shredder entirely every single turn if he wants to.
Dr. Boom was an excellent pickup from there. Puts the pressure on Orange as well. I mean, Stancifka's been playing very reactive, but it's worked out in his favor. He's got tons and tons of armor. It looks like he's thinking about brawling again.
Yeah, I think the reasoning is, when am I ever going to brawl something worth brawling? So if he doesn't use it now, it might just end up sitting in his hand forever and not doing anything else. So I can understand the reasoning behind Brawl.
Yeah, Brawl seems okay actually, now you
It's
put it
alright.
that way. And not only that, you just have the weapon to clean up any 1/1s that stick around. I guess the power to Shredder is a big question mark on what
Yeah.
it will develop.
And if you Brawl and the Shredder lives, maybe now you're I wouldn't say in trouble, but you're in bigger trouble maybe than you were prior. But with the Cruel Taskmaster execute, the Inner Rage execute, anything big coming out is still a non-issue. Oh man. Orange, would you care to overextend in this board, please? I've got a second Brawl to extract some more value out of. Can you help?
I think he's just going to ping pass here.
Yeah, of course. That's kind of the way you play this if you're Orange. He knows that overextending is not necessary. On the other hand, you know, Stancifka doesn't feel threatened one bit. What he's thinking is, I can armor up for 4, negate the Shredder at least, and any more damage that comes in, sure it's going through to the armor, but it's really just chipping away at it. It's not dealing with it, and Stancifka is setting up a really nice lethal with the Grom very soon. I think 4 from the Death's Bite, and he could get an extra 14 from the Grom. I think that is lethal next turn.
Oh yeah, for sure. Cruel Taskmaster in a rage going to buff up that Grom as well.
Exactly,
Get
so
them
lethal is set up.
So this is it. Stancifka is going to be able to take this game. Very patient play from his Control Warrior, which is basically what he's done through the whole event.
Yeah.
Playing a super patient, kind of almost like a fatigue warrior, the way he's played it.
It's got to happen that way when you're playing a very defensive build. I mean, Justicar Trueheart is really a massive enabler for these types of games where you just last and last forever until you can get the win. And barely any damage was dealt to him. He was at 28 health at the end there. Tempo Mage not working out one bit, and the power of the apple is showing.
Flawless play from Stancifka there. His Control Warrior has been on point this entire event. Just, I think I could argue it's one of his best decks he's brought.
Definitely. I mean, if he could play 3 of them, would he?
I think he would.
Yeah.
You know, loving those control decks. Control Warrior is about as control as you can get, really. I don't think even Control Priest even matches up to kind of the decision making that Control Warrior has to make sometimes. So many options, so many different routes you can take the game. And Stancifka always goes for the kind of very patient, stally, kind of find it just to press the armor button
exactly.
a lot.
Place the armor button as fast as you can. We saw yesterday a coin Justicar on 5 against Patron, which gave him just about as much armor. I think he was sitting on something like 80 health against Patron, which was just beyond ridiculous. Thijs was very sad. He unleashed everything, and he ended up chipping at half the armor that Stancifka had.
Yeah, Thijs even said later on, like, why did I even play all that game? Why was I under the illusion that I might win that? He had so much health, but, you know, Thijs was just playing it out, just see how it goes.
Play it, right? You don't just escape concede out of the way. You want to give people a good show. So Orange here is going to be playing his Patron Warrior versus Stancifka's Handlock. Stancifka, again, we want to reiterate for those of you who may not be aware, he has been targeting Patron Warrior very hard. His entire lineup is meant to beat it, and he's letting it go through. You know, every single player, maybe aside from Dog, decided to bring Patron Warrior, and Stancifka has been abusing that.
And this is a matchup he'll want to find, especially the Patron Warrior. I mean, if he ran into the Tempo Mage or the Druid, he might have had a harder time. Not to say that Patron can't win this match. I've seen it done many times, but there can be situations when the Handlock just snowballs out of control with too many taunts for those Patrons to deal with. And that's a really important card here. Void Caller into Jiraxxus is crazy.
Yeah, I have to wonder, though, against a Warrior if that's worth it, because we're talking about a class that has Execute as removal. So it can be a little problematic sometimes to just have that guy on the board.
I like the Owl on the Loot Hoarder there. Just deny as many draws as possible. I would be surprised if we don't see an Owl again.
Yeah, number 2. The Giant might change the game plan, but again, you know, if you trade your Owl, the Acolyte is only going to get card draw from the Cruel Taskmaster or Inner Rage. But again, the most important way that Patron, you know, goes through this game is through draw. And if you deny them their first 2 card draw engine, that's it. They've got nothing else.
Yeah, he might consider keeping a hold of the Silent. I mean, like you said, if he trades into the Loot Hoarder, the Acolyte is going to be inactive. He needs to use more cards to do it. And it does play nicely into the Giant. So if you can bait out and execute, say, on the Giant, or maybe a Drake coming up, that Jiraxxus, when it eventually comes down, will have a lot more value.
Exactly. All right, we'll see if Stancifka opts for the I want an 8-8 on the board play, or the I would rather just lose my Jiraxxus play, or the I'm going to play another beast that hoot hoots.
Hoot hoot.
Yeah.
I like I like going for the Giant. I like playing a bit more patiently. You've already denied one draw. Like we've already said, you can't activate the Acolyte without investing any more resources.
I mean, it could backfire, I guess, if you go for, you know, Cruel Taskmaster play and then there's an Inner Rage afterwards. But that's a lot of resources that aren't going to be used for the AoE combo.
Battle Rage is not going to be able to do anything right now. No damage taken to Orange or his minion. Drawing 0 cards. Unstable Ghoul. I guess he could play this down now, just so he can get an activator not only on his Acolyte of Pain, but maybe be able to start up that Battle Rage.
I mean, in this case, it's going to work out wonderfully, because if Stancifka goes for the Mountain Giant, as he probably might have planned previously, then you go for the Mountain Giant, and you know, the Ghoul smashes itself into it if you're Orange, and then you get an extra card draw from the Acolyte. Then you get the Execute. The Acolyte is damaged. You have access to the Battle Rage later. You've got the Emperor. You have the Frothing. It's going to be one of your best combinations at some point.
Also, finding those Death Spites are really important, because you don't want to invest your Executes too early if you can avoid it. And Death Spite is one of the best ways for these warriors to deal with stuff like Giants and Drakes. But the Owl does come down on the Acolyte, so playing the Unstable Ghoul doesn't get all the value that he wants. So he finds another Acolyte of Pain. Interesting.
The thing is, if Orange goes for the Acolyte of Pain here, Stancifka, you know, he's been denying card draw a lot, but it might not be enough. He might be forced, or feel like he's forced, into using Ancient Watcher with a Shadow Flame at some point. It's just that he needs to keep the AoE for the patrons. Those are really important.
You don't want to give him a Battle Rage turn as well. That will be the other threat as well. I mean, he could Battle Rage for 1 card here, but he's going to wait for this Ghoul to pop, hit these 2 Acolytes, get 1 draw off the 1 Acolyte who's unsilenced, and then Battle Rage for 2 cards. But like you said, do you really want to throw a Shadow Flame just yet?
I feel like the Antique Healbot might be a boring play, but it just showed up, and I feel like it's an alright play. The Ancient Watcher Coin Defender is also something you might consider if you're not afraid of dying to a combo later on. If you feel like the other defender being there with the 2 Sun Furies in your deck could carry you through. Otherwise, I think Antique Healbot is a boring but okay play.
Yeah, tops him up, develops a 3/3, says you need to deal with this, or I'm going to just hit your Acolyte once your Ghoul dies. Yeah. You might want to find some more card draw. It's
really bad with Battle Rage because the Ghoul smashes itself into the Antique Healbot, and then Battle Rage triggers, and then you hate your life if you're Stancifka. That's the really big drawback.
If only there was a way of playing nothing right now and letting the Ghoul kind of sit there. It's unfortunate.
Hellfire would be pretty good. Oh, he's going to go for the Giant, maybe with the Watcher as well. Just set it up right now, get himself something on the board that Orange has to handle. I mean, there is no combo coming out right now. Even a good Frothing would be, you know, Warsong Frothing, you smash the Ghoul into the Giant, and then maybe you'd be able to get yourself some good value, but not all the time. Oh man.
I like this actually, because he's got 2 Argus in hand, so now we can start using them in the next upcoming turns and forcing Orange to start using removal.
Yeah, I mean, Orange is getting a lot of card draw if he wants it. I mean, the Emperor Thorson being ready to go. Oh my goodness, the second Frothing's been found for Orange.
Inner Rage gonna come down. Execute comes down. Inner Rage on the Acolyte if he's really greedy and wants to get that card draw.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could probably Inner Rage, but you might want to keep that for your OTK. Going through and winning right away with the Inner Rage as extra damage might be what you're looking for. You can still, I think, wait 1, 2, maybe 3 turns before you have to go all in, and the Warlock is putting you out of the game by taunting up.
Another thing to consider as well, Frothing is an important piece, but Warsong is probably one of the most important pieces, because without it you have no way of taking out this Warlock. And I have seen situations where these Warsong commanders just don't show up.
Yeah, and speaking of Frothing Berserker being an important piece, he just feeds this one away to Stancifka. He says, the only way this Frothing dies is you have no more Owl. The only way this dies is if you Shadow Flame, and if you Shadow Flame, I can use my patrons, because maybe there's no Hellfire. I assume if there were one, you would have used it when the Ghoul was there with the 2 Acolytes, and Stancifka did not. So Orange may be here making a good read as to what's coming from Stancifka's hand.
I don't know if there's any... I don't know if there's more value for keeping it and forcing in it and having double Frothing to finish off. Maybe using one of those Frothings to trade into a Giant. But he actually taps into the Hellfire, and gets the Shadow Flame off, killing that those 3 minions there.
Oh goodness, the Emperor Thorsten is there with the most important cards in the deck. No Whirlwind yet, but Stancifka is going to have to handle not only this guy, but what's coming afterwards, and there is no way right now for him to deal with the Emperor Thorsten whatsoever.
Yep, Siphon Soul is just not a card we see anymore. That was one of the answers Handlock had back in the day for dealing with these big threats, but unfortunately he might have to leave it there and tank another reduction on Orange's hand.
So would you ever consider going for something like a Mountain Giant play with a taunt, or is that not something you're interested in? It's a little bit weird for Stancifka because right now if he doesn't find a way to taunt up or heal up, he probably assumes that he's dead.
You might have to take a risk, I think. I don't know, you could take a risk with Mountain Void and just hope he doesn't have it, but he doesn't want to lose this game, especially since on paper it's supposed to be a good matchup. I don't know, it's so tough.
I mean, the Giant with Sun Fury gives you a really big 8/8 wall. Technically, you could also go, you know, Giant with the BGH Coin Sun Fury. That gives you more things, and none of them really feed into the Patrons if that comes up.
Or Giant Coin Heal Bot.
Oh, you can't play BGH, never mind. He would have had to play it first, and then the Giant can't be played. Noxious Light. German Giant.
Finding the Sun Fury is actually pretty important because now you can expect, these are a bit expendable, these Arguses. You can just set the 9/9 and make him punch for that first before having any threat on his life. But he's expecting Whirlwinds and stuff, but Orange doesn't actually have any Whirlwinds, and Whirlwinds are the most important part of setting up this combo over, say, Cruel Taskmasters and Inner Rage, as they only give you like a base of 2 attack.
Yeah. But you know what Orange has that he wants? He's got a lot of cards, and he's got an Emperor that's going to tick again on every single important piece of the combo that he has. There's even a good... Oh, the big game hunter from Orange off the top.
So big game.
That is crazy. Battle Rage will be used here for sure. An extra card for this Emperor Thorsten. Wow.
He really wants to find that Whirlwind effect. Finds another Execute as well, so any other kind of walls that come up can be dealt with. Dart Bomb does find its way to Stancifka, so he does have a way to deal with this Emperor. But, you know, there's still other things on board that can contribute to his demise if there's a big Patron turn.
You know, I have to wonder, though, what is Stancifka's plan here to actually survive? Because if he goes for Hellfire, he's down to 15 health. Assuming he goes Hellfire Dark Bomb on the Gnomish Inventor, he is dead on board, like from the hand of Orange. And he has to assume that he is. The way that Patron plays, you know, if one Frauding was slapped on the board as nothing more than a tempo play, no, Orange maybe was scouting for removal, forcing Stancifka to use AoE before the Patrons were unleashed. So you probably think that Orange is sitting on those.
He could Hellfire, Coin, Anti-Kill Bot to get him out of range, but I don't think he can use Hellfire just yet.
Oh man, he's going to force the Jaraxxus out through the Void Caller. Alright.
So there's an Execute sitting in Orange's hand, so
GG! There's no way this is not lethal. I mean,
man.
Yeah, this is way over. Like, basically Stancifka is maybe bluffing them, like hoping that Orange thinks there's a Mal'Ganis.
He's going to be pretty happy not to see one. And he can even get some extra attack on the Patron and the Frothin from hitting the Sun Fury as well. So this is for sure enough damage to finish him off.
Everyone's getting in here.
And this is why Warsong is a little bit too crazy. Look how much damage from hand he can do. I know it's a combo deck and people argue, you know, combo decks, this is what they do, but come on.
Yeah. He was 3 over lethal with his play here, so Orange he got a pretty close win. I thought he played it very well, but that big game hunter was instrumental to going through the German Giant. It's a little bit difficult sometimes, I think, as Patron to finish off all the big dudes to get taunted up. You only have really 2 executes, so the inclusion of the big game hunter when you're expecting Handlock, which I think Orange was, is definitely something solid.
Something to note as well is Purple had a big game hunter in his patron lists when he was playing the American Championships, and Orange and Purple have had a relationship in Archon, so maybe he tapped into some of Purple's deck building when building his own patron, or saw the idea and thought, you know what, if I'm going to run into Handlock, I want to make this matchup a lot better, and one big game hunter might be enough just to swing it, whereas you're not relying on 2 executes alone.
Alright, Stancifka is going to move on to his Druid, and he's going to face off against, again, the Tempo Mage from Orange. Orange here, you know, matchup-wise, he's got the edge, but based on the starting hand from Stancifka, there's a good chance that he just ramps up and cheats minions out very quickly, whereas Orange is going to be having to play it fair.
Turn 1, double innovate coin, low feb.
Yeah.
You can't play a Frostbolt on turn 2.
You better have a Mana Worm, because that's it. Oh man, you can't even play, you know, you can't even play a Flame Cannon ever. Turn 3, like turn 2, you don't want to play a minion, because you're just feeding it into Lotheb. Could this be a hand that Stancifka keeps? Just like straight up, you know, you just go...
I don't know, low feb.
Innervate, Lotheb. Turn 2, armor up, your hero power. Turn 4, your Shredder. You with the coin.
Potentially.
I mean, turn 3, you Shredder with the coin. It looks, I mean, it's very aggressive, but...
Super aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, you're relying on top decks for everything else, and... I mean, Druid of the Claw would definitely be a lot better than low feb. You know, 4/6 wall.
Right.
Flame Cannon alone's not enough. Frostbolt alone's not enough. Does demand a Fireball and can probably get 2 for 1, maybe even 3 for 1. But he does actually throw away the low fed there. Gets a Wrath instead, which will be able to deal with pesky Mana Worms and Sorcerer's Apprentice at least.
Yeah, keeping the 2 innervates is a very good guarantee against not having the ability to cheat. And when you're in a bad matchup, cheating your minions out again is very important. You want to get them out before Mirror Entity is established. So if you can get that Shredder out here on turn 1, you're forcing Orange to go for Flame Cannon or Frostbolt on turn 2, which again gives him no tempo. You keep a 2-drop from the Shredder, and you can keep going forward with maybe a top deck tempo play that you have, a Wrath to kill something if he opts for a minion. Orange is already on the back foot starting into the first turn.
Yeah, forcing that Frostbolt. Do you have it, Orange? That's what Stancifka is saying, and he does. But he's thinking about if he wants to use it yet. Do you think you have to use it just yet? Can you tank 4 damage?
I mean, Sorcerer's Apprentice is a good consideration because it will trade with a Shredder, and you're forcing Stancifka to have Wrath. The only answer is this. Otherwise, you're making a trade 1 for 1, and if your Sorcerer's Apprentice lives, then you're in a good spot, because you can then use Frostbolt and Arcane Missiles for very cheap, followed up with Mirror Entity Frostbolt, even getting a better turn 3. It's a gamble, but it's one that Orange is comfortable taking, and Stancifka is agonizing over the decision, it seems, of wrathing the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
I think I like Wrath on here, because then you get the Shade next turn. You still have the Innovate, so if you find anything of more value on turn 3, Druid of the Claw or low feb, you have an option to Innovate that out as well. But what's Stancifka considering here, do you think?
I mean, there's the option of wrathing for cycle and to innervate hero power to kill it, and then you get yourself a bit more card draw. You know, you're keeping your hand size a little bit higher, maybe. You're dumping the innervate in exchange for a higher quality card, but I feel like cheating minions out is going to be a lot more important for him than just getting 1 extra card. The tempo is worth a lot.
Yeah, you want to be forcing Fireballs on the Druid of Claws. You don't want him to have them held in the back, ready to finish you off. I think Wrath's just fine here. Alright, so the ball is back in Orange's court here. Can he deal with this Shredder yet?
Orange has a good Mirror Entity turn, though. I mean, he knows that they will not get any better than this. If you want to go for Frostbolt, then you have to hope that nothing good comes of it. And maybe Arcane Missiles is also statistically likely to save you. 50% here, you could, toss a coin, but when you've got the Flame Waker, there's no reason to toss it, and Stancifka gets a perfect Shade turn that could get absolutely demolished by what Orange has in hand.
Especially find that Ancient of Law now, so turn 5 he does have the option to get some card draw as well.
Let's roll some dice.
Oh, will the Shade get taken out?
1, 2, 3, oh goodness, that,
the board clear. Oh man, crowd likes that.
So if you go for the big game Hunter here, is that a play you should make? I feel like if you don't do it, you're going to run out of steam very quickly. And there's a chance that Orange is forced to play a little slower just because he has to answer the BGH to save the Flame Waker. And if so, then maybe you can trade your minions afterwards.
It looks like it's the only thing you can do here, really. It's such a shame for Stancifka, because this just gets taken out so easily by any small amount of spells. It's still relying on RNG, so maybe it'll go in his favor. Maybe he'll have to force a trade here.
I mean, if Orange goes for Mirror Entity Ping, which he could, he's got a good chance of killing it with the additional hero power, and he can.
And there we go. Easy to deal with these BGH, especially with something like Flame Waker. If both hits had hit the BGH, he could have developed the Sorcerer's Apprentice after as well, but didn't go in his favor there.
So Stancifka here has to play something, and if he does, he's feeding it to orange. Now the question is, what do you play? You could play Wild Growth, Innervate, Azure Drake. What that does is it brings you up to 7 mana on the following turn, so you can play the Ancient of Lore right afterwards. If you play the Drake alone, though, you're going to run into a lot of problems because you're giving orange the initiative, and things could go very wrong from here on out.
If he had found a Wrath, he could have innovated the Wrath out and killed the Flame Waker.
That's right.
But he didn't find it, and like you said, going for the Wild Growth here, making sure that Ancient of Lore can come down nice and tidily on turn 7. Well, turn 6,
yeah,
I guess. But turn 7 for him now, as far as he's concerned.
Oh, the amount of burn in Orange's hand here could incentivize him to just ignore the board and push. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's what he decided to do. But killing the Drake is probably a very safe board-centric play because you're not, weak to swipe. And if you let the Drake live, and swipe could finish off the Apprentice, kill your Drake, and you're in a bit of a weird spot.
A lot of pressure. He does find Force of Nature, so he does have something to deal with the board. But
I like that a lot, actually.
Leaving the Drake alive is not too bad, I suppose. But
the Drake is a problem, yeah. I mean, leaving the Drake is a problem if there's more burn, but you can't assume there's going to be more, right, based on what's already been played.
Ancient of Lore here can eat another Fireball. Toshli. So Toshli's going to give him a spare part which he can use straight away with that Flame Waker, unless it's maybe the one that bounces it back to your hand. That would be a bit unfortunate. And then he may can rely on some RNG and do some trading instead of using that Fireball.
I mean, reversing switch. I mean, the thing is, the 5/5 you could definitely ignore if you're orange. There's no reason to kill it. If, for instance, you go Toshli, get the +1 attack, or the reversing switch, you're golden. If you get the freeze, you're also in an amazing spot. You get the taunt, you can make your smaller minion taunt everything, or even Toshli. So the only bad one is Time Rewinder. Reversing switch is amazing on this Flame Waker.
Yeah, reversing switch Flame Waker goes to the 4-2, put a lot of pressure on Stancifka's hand. Fireball waiting in the back as well to finish him off. Both go face.
Oh goodness, that's a perfect outcome for orange here. Full face.
Face is the place here. Fireball ready to finish him off in the next turn, or maybe next 2 turns. Can Stancifka come back here?
Yeah, he can't heal up, so basically we know for a fact that he's dead, but we'll see what play he opts for. There's no way for him to kill Toshli and remove the entire board. If he goes for Force of Nature, he can at best
you can leave the Drake alive.
Right, I mean, technically you can kill you can leave 1 minion alive.
That's too much.
It's too much, exactly. Like at this stage, he would need a heal and a taunt and removal all in one, so it would have to at least be some kind of spell-powered up swipe, which right now is just not something he can do.
Even if he develops a Druid Claw into Taunt, Toshli with a ping alone can take that down.
Exactly.
And then he can only really trade the Ancient of Lore into 1 minion, so I don't think there's any way out. He is kind of trying to find something because, of course, these matches are important, and this pushes Orange closer to going further in the winner's bracket.
I guess you could go Force of Nature, you kill Flame Waker. I mean, if you armor up, though, I mean, you can double trade here and leave only the Drake alive, which if your opponent has nothing but the Drake, you're taking only 5, so technically you might live. But it's the only way for him to maybe survive. It's the only chance he's got.
Going for the survival play, it's not going to be enough. The Fireball alone is going to be able to do it, and Orange goes 2-1 up against Stancifka, needing 1 more game to go further on in the winner's bracket.
Right, but let's say something though, the Tempo Mage was very much favored in this matchup. We already knew it. You really want to find those aspirants if you're running into a mirror entity. It's not good enough to give him a Drake. It's the last thing you want to do, and even when you ramp up and cheat the way that Stancifka did, it's not necessarily going to give you the win either way. And this Arcane Missiles from Orange was absolutely crucial. He had to kill the Shade, he had to kill the 3-2, deny any kind of board presence from Stancifka, and if that hadn't gone that way, maybe the game would have changed, the outcome would have changed a little bit.
I mean, the Arcane Missiles turn meant he lost board for the rest of the game.
Exactly.
If those Arcane Missiles not maybe hit the Shade, maybe not hit anything, Stancifka maybe had a fighting chance, but as soon as he lost the board on that turn, it was pretty much lights out because Orange just had everything he needed to put the pressure on, and especially with those Fireballs to deal with minions and to finish off the game.
So Stancifka is going to try his hand again at the Handlock, and Orange is going to be going for the Druid, and he picks up the Aspirant, he picks up the Innervate. He's got Ramp, but lucky for Stancifka, he got a Dark Bomb off the top, so the Aspirant will not be able to curve maybe the way that Orange wants it to. Is there a good argument for getting the Shredder out as soon as possible?
I think he's going for the Shade first, which I quite like because Shade is very vulnerable to Hellfire in the upcoming turns of when it's first played. But if you innovate it out now, it will just be out of range of that Hellfire.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the Devil, there it is. So Orange is guaranteeing his Shade's survival by going for this line of play, and he can play the Aspirant here. It's a boring drop. Stancifka is forced to answer it, right, for fear of seeing a 5-drop being coined out, and now he's got to surrender the life tap on turn 2 or on turn 3 that he wants to do. And by doing that, then Orange gets to curve into the Shredder quite nicely on this coin.
He's put into this situation a lot, I find, Stancifka, where he has to throw a Dart Bomb instead of tapping.
Yeah.
I've seen it multiple occasions this weekend.
Oh, there's very little to do about it. I mean, when every single class is playing 2 drops that make you want to gouge your eyes out, you really need that card. Dark Bomb, when it got added initially to the game, some people weren't too, excited about it. I got really excited about it because I realized this brings back Handlock in a way, with Healbot, like the anti-Healbot together in GVG when they came out. If it weren't for those 2 cards, I feel like Handlock would be in a terrible spot overall as a deck. And the addition of those really helped out. So I feel like Dark Bomb was exactly what the class needed. And to this day, you still see it in every control-oriented Warlock. You see it in the mid-range variants as well. Definitely a very solid card, even though it's very bland.
Sounds like he can take a risk here. He could play Ancient Watcher and just pass.
I mean, I like that. If you've got the Shadow Flame set up,
exactly.
Now
So
he's going to go for the Hellfire. Gets the Shredder killed.
Yeah, that's true too. Oh, 5-drop, which we were talking about. He can actually coin that out if he wants, but the coin will find more value, I think, with the Ancient of Law, being able to draw more cards a little bit later. Do you just play on curve here till Ancient of Law? That's
a good question, because now you saw Stancifka pass. You might expect a Hellfire on this turn, which means that Druid of the Claw is 10 times better, right? Whereas if you go for the Shredder, it dies. That's definitely something you're aware of. Oh my god, the aggressive line of play from Orange. He's setting up lethal for next turn. Hellfire Heal will not save Stancifka. The Shade and the Druid of the Claw will live, and the Savage Roar with Hero Power will be enough to finish off Stan.
Oh man, if he had gone for the Ancient Watcher play.
With hindsight.
I mean, the reason I was thinking of that, he didn't want to just throw a Dart Bomb because it just seemed... It wasn't enough. The Shade was going to still stick around. Hellfire was out of reach for the Shade. And at least with the Shadow Flame and having the Watcher set up next to his turn, he wouldn't be dead. That was what I was thinking. But Stancifka, you said he can play a little bit greedy sometimes. Was that a greedy play, just going for the tap there?
I think he's alive. I mean, if he Dark Bombs the Aspirant, right? Oh no, the Shade goes up by 1 attack. Never mind. I knocked your slide again. I mean, yeah, if you Dark Bombs the Aspirant, the Shade is a 5/5. There's 4/4 from the other guys. So we're talking about 9 plus 6 from Savage Roar. So he's going to be 1 off lethal because the Aspirant removes the Mana Crystal that lets him Hero Power. So the Dark Bomb with Ancient Watcher is really the only thing I can see that could save Stancifka. But the moment a Swipe gets picked up, the moment a Keeper of the Grove gets picked up, there's no way for Stancifka to get out of it.
I mean, that Mana Crystal was super important to setting up lethal for Orange there. Dart Bomb. I think one reason Orange might have went for that as well, because he didn't see the Dart Bomb on that previous turn.
Exactly.
He thought, hang on, he doesn't have it. Maybe I can just go for a cheeky lethal here, but, he's still got opportunities to get that.
It was a very solid play either way. I feel like Orange here has no reason not to go full face. The only problem with going Savage Roar is double Molten Giant wrecking you. But if he goes for double Molten Giant play, what's the follow-up? Like, how does he end up consolidating the board? And Orange is going to play it super safe. And I mean super safe.
I think it's worth it now. You had your opportunity to get a lethal. Stancifka had the answer. Maybe you can hold back a little bit. Actually, he does take him down to 12, so he doesn't care about these Giants.
Yeah, he's playing around the Giants and securing the win. I'm just trying to figure out here, what is the way that you lost, assuming you went for Savage Roar all in? It had to be double Molten with Sun Fury, double Molten with a Defensive Argus, putting down Giants that you can't go through yet. And the reason you can't go through them is fairly obvious.
And that's it.
You can't actually BGH them. You don't have a silence. You have nothing.
Double Savage Roar. So even if he couldn't find lethal now, he may have had a layer. Orange is actually going to be our first contestant who's going further on in the winner's bracket, and Stancifka is going to fall down to the lower bracket.
Right, Stancifka's going to have a very rough ride. He's had a rough ride this event. I feel like Kalento and him have been going through hell to finish moving on. But again, you know, the lineup that he has, the Control Warrior is amazing. The rest, however, sometimes feel like it's falling short. The Druid looks fine. It's a very standard list, nothing out of the ordinary from the Druid. I feel like he should be doing, you know, okay. Now that he's down to the loser's bracket, he's going to have to win his next 2 matches to keep in. If he loses only 1, he's out.
So Orange is going to give us a few words about how he feels about the match and his performance.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Orange, for your winnery. So, what are your emotions? You were in a playoff, you had a good situation since yesterday, and guys played actually tie breaks. Do you suppose the result like this?
Oh, it has been a very exciting final so far. Now, I have mostly been focusing on my own game. I followed the tiebreakers closely yesterday, but mostly it's just like I've been focusing on what I have to do and not really what the others do.
And you actually came to the tournament as a caster, and now you're in the final, you're playing playoff. Did you expect the result like this?
I mean, one day before the tournament, I didn't even expect to play in it, so this is a pretty huge bonus, I'd say.
And yesterday you actually were casting a little bit. What were your emotions? Did you like it more than playing, maybe?
Nah, my main focus is to be as good of a player as I can be. I like casting, it's fun, like getting to analyze games and such, but mostly I want to be like the best player I can be.
Thank you very much and congratulations again. And now we go back to our casters.
Or not. Oh yeah, we did.
All right,
Here we are. So Orange gets the first win of the day, propelling him into the the winners bracket, which means he can just wait here until the second winner is announced, and then they'll be playing their match later. We're gonna have to see the other 2 players fight it off, though. Kalento versus Tice, 2 of the greatest players. Tice is just on a complete roll, and Kalento basically has been at the very top of the food chain for for the lifespan of Hearthstone. I think at this point.
Yeah, for years, well, at least a year at least. Tice and Kalento, I think Tice is number 1 at the moment, and I think Kalento is either number 2 or number 3, so it's right at the top of like the point system right now on Gosu. So we got the top players, ranked players, playing each other in competitive play right now. So that'll be coming up very soon. Orange finding that win, very consistent with how he's performed this week already. He's played exceptionally well the last 2 days, and now he just found his way further on into the winners bracket. Stancifka, unfortunately, going to fall short on that handlock once again. Yeah,
it's been a little bit of a difficult ride for Stancifka. We'll see if he can salvage the tournament. He, again, went through the tiebreaker in the most unexpected way. Now he's in loser's bracket. He might be able to climb back in the same way that he did initially. And if that happens, then that will have been a crazy roller coaster of emotions for him. So we'll be back, guys, after the break with Kalento versus Tice. Don't go anywhere.